It sits on about 45,000 acres in Pittsburgh County, just south of McAlester. In that area, there are 1,300 bunkers like these, capable of holding 900,000 tons of Army-manufactured ammunition. In the unlikely event of a mishap, it's enough firepower to make a smoking crater out of 3/4 of the county. But that probably won't happen because safety precautions at the McAlester Army Ammunition Plant are taken to the extreme. Because the plant has been in the bullet and bomb business since May of 1943, they've had lots of experience making everything from machine gun belts to 2,000-pound bombs. Everything needed to carry out a respectable-size conventional war. The plant is one of McAllister's major industries. It shoots more than $18 million a year in payroll into the area economy. There are about 750 employees at the ammunition plant. Only about 45 of those are military personnel. The rest are government employees. Well, a few years ago, Congress decided that the government should get out of the way of private enterprise. Congress wants to put about 200 jobs up for bid to private contractors. Such jobs as equipment and building maintenance, all the support positions not directly involved in producing ammunition. The philosophy behind the move is right out of the Reagan administration's new federalism.
The Department of Defense has identified some functions within McAlester Army Ammunition Plant that are commercial in nature and should be considered for contracting out. In other words, if a contractor can do the same function and do it cheaper, then it should be a contractor doing it rather than the government.
Similar moves are being made at what were, until recently, government-owned and operated facilities. But the government isn't necessarily getting out of the picture. They have entered their own bid, and if it's the low bid, nothing will change at McAlester. Whoever gets the contract, the jobs associated with actually producing ammunition will remain under the Army's jealous control, at least until Congress decides that bullets and bombs are better left to private enterprise, too. Ted Brown, Action 4 in McAlester.
The Bureau of Standards blamed faulty design for the accident. This is the hotel atrium beforehand. A third-floor skywalk, not involved in the accident, hung from the ceiling by one set of rods. The second and fourth-floor skywalks hung together from another set of rods. These are the walks that collapsed when the rods tore loose, starting at connections on the upper walk. The Bureau of Standards retrieved undamaged portions of the skywalk beams from the wreckage and set up the connections in a lab as they were before the accident. 2 C-beams under the upper walkway, welded together, hung from the ceiling by rods and nuts, and supporting more rods and nuts holding the lower skywalk below. The original design called for single rods to hold both walkways, which would have distributed the load more evenly. But someone, the government investigation didn't determine who, changed that design during construction to the double rod system, which put the full load of both walkways on a single nut at each joint. It's these single nuts that tore through the beam in the accident and also in the lab when similar weight was applied. The Bureau said its tests showed even the original design wasn't sufficient to meet Kansas City building codes, but was approved by inspectors anyway. The second design, which the city didn't even know about, was twice as weak, barely able to support the walkways, let alone the crowd that was on them before they collapsed. The Bureau of Standards' Edward Frang, who headed the investigation, talked about the connection problem.
It might actually be characterized as being trivial in the whole design process.
If you visit the ERA headquarters in Oklahoma City, you might be surprised by what you'll find. In most political campaigns, the loser packs up and clears out. But that's not the case with ERA supporters in Oklahoma. They haven't given up. Day by day, strategy continues with groups such as these field workers.
So many of these things have happened after the fact, and they didn't really
Door-to-door campaigning is one tactic that has proved most successful for them in both rural and metropolitan areas. Ironically, they say great strides have been made in gaining support for the ERA since the recent defeat. Part of their new campaign includes the wearing of green ribbons to signify the ERA is being held hostage in Oklahoma.
We do still have time. We know that. There are a lot of people in the state who know that, who believe that, and they're not willing to quit working for the Equal Rights Amendment while there's still time. And the time does not run out until June 30th, 1982.
Postcards and letters that support the ERA have swamped the desk of state legislators this past week. Senate Minority Leader Phil Watson, who openly opposes the ERA, has received close to 20,000. But unfortunately for ERA supporters, they haven't seemed to influence him.
Well, I think it's humorous. I'm glad they're wasting this money on me because they're certainly not accomplishing anything except cluttering up the office with a bunch of mail.
If it boils down to just one state being left to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, Governor Nye says he would call for a special session of the state legislature. But as it stands now, there are no plans to bring the amendment before the legislature this session. Carol Lambert, Action 4 at the state capitol.
For the young aspiring artist in Oklahoma, art does have its rewards. Some of the more tangible ones came this weekend when awards were given for the 22nd annual Young Talent in Oklahoma competition at the Art Center. The rewards were in the form of a few cash prizes, scholarships for schools across the country, and a chance to show their work. The art of David Krisman is unique, and the artist says individual.
Really what comes to mind, I'm not looking for a political message or anything like that as some of the artists in the past. It's just what I like and what comes to mind, put it down, regardless of what people think about it. It's got to be, an individual effort.
Individuality is what art is all about, and despite the number of awards Krisman received, he was not the only individual whose work was on show. Students from all over the state were vying for their place on the canvas wall, each with their own expression of what they liked, or of a heritage common to many Oklahomans. But some of the work is individual in a collective sort of way, the social and artistic expression of a whole group of young, talented Oklahomans. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
The front porch fell in while we were attempting salvage and overhaul and fell down on a firefighter, and at this time we don't know how bad he's injured, but he's been taken to Presbyterian Hospital, and hopefully we'll have some word shortly on that.
She say that?
1 a.m. Monday morning. An Oklahoma City police officer has a man in custody, but this man won't be booked into jail. He'll be staying here tonight.
Huh?
Stay a little too much to drink. See some ID.
What's the big deal? Damn, I have too much drink before.
I know it.
Well?
You want to turn in your money? Want to leave your boots up here so someone steals them?
Where am I at?
Huh?
Okay.
After checking in, it's time to sleep it off.
Just take up the bed. Any bed is vacant. Any bed is vacant. Okay, go ahead. The restroom is in the back.
He'll be on the streets in 8 hours, but there's a good chance he'll be back.
It is a revolving door, you know, guys just kind of spin them out, but a lot of these guys we deal with, they don't want help. This is the way they want to live. A lot of them say, you know, I'll quit drinking the day I die, and that's just the attitude they have. I mean, these guys aren't at the bottom of the barrel, they're underneath the barrel. I mean, it's about as far as you can go. You know, they're down so far that they can't pick themselves up.
I'll make it, but I will steal, but I'll make it.
Well, like what? What kind of job you have?
I work anything. Labor food, more or less. You got 15 jobs, 99 men up there for a job, so what you gonna do? Oh, they want all regulars. I makes it. Just enough to get enough to keep me going. My life is worth living if I want to live it, but I'm in a rut. But I will change it, I hope, hopefully, with God's help.
Bill Ross, Action 4.
It was like days gone by at OU tonight. They were lined up 300 strong for Billy Sims' autograph, and he was more than happy to hand out his signature because these people paid good money to get it. But the money isn't going to Sims. It's going to the survivors and the families of the Star School explosion tragedy. And the whole affair was Sims' idea.
After hearing about it, you know, I was in Detroit, and
y'all from here?
I thought it'd be a good idea. First, I just wanted to do something, you know, to help the families out in either way. And my people in Houston thought it'd be a good idea to get some type of benefit together, get the other former players involved, and basically that's how it all started.
Sims brought some friends with him too, friends like Greg Pruitt and the Selman brothers and others. And people paid good money to meet and talk with them, and to help out children's families devastated when a water heater exploded through a school cafeteria roof. Children like Nicole Monroe, who lost her mother, and Chulray Edwards, who was the last child out of intensive care. To these, OU's greats dedicated their time for a cause that touched their hearts. Ted Brown, Action 4 in Norman.
An unidentified woman was traveling west on I-40 at about 2:30 this morning. As she approached the point where I-40 passes over McArthur, the woman began to drive in the median. She sailed more than 100 feet into the intersection below. One man was stopped at a red light on McArthur. He described what happened.
She just dropped straight off of the overpass, hit right there, and went almost up the other side. She was slumped over. When she came back, she fell back. That was it.
What'd you think when you saw it?
I thought something fell out of the sky.
The woman was trapped in her car. Firemen worked for about 40 minutes before they were able to get her out. She's now in stable condition at Baptist Hospital. Bill Ross, Action 4.
People were lining up at the counters even before they opened this morning. Even a surprise snowstorm that had travelers worrying about delays didn't stop them from coming, and who can blame them? It's not often you can buy an airline ticket to almost any major city in the country and get another ticket free. Braniff started the price cuts with their dollar sale. They've been having financial troubles, and they hope the promotion will help them out. But not if American Airlines can get the business themselves. Shortly after the Braniff announcement, Americans started their own 2-for-1 sale, and the battle was on. Usually war is an ugly thing to watch, but customers at the counters are cheering for this one.
It's pretty nice for my pocketbook.
Flying's got to where most people can't afford it anymore. And driving, I'd just rather not drive, so. He doesn't want to drive either.
But this, you can't pass up a good deal like that.
If you want to take advantage of the war, you should know that it ends when ticket counters close tomorrow at 10 p.m. And those tickets are only good between March 15th and April 30th. No doubt about it, the ticket offers are a bargain, but they are also non-refundable. So you better have your trip pretty well planned out before you buy. Ted Brown, Action 4, Will Rogers World Airport.
The Rock Island lines are there, and we still identify those lines with the Rock Island, but the Rock Island Railroad as a railroad is no longer in existence.
A lot of people still don't understand that. Even after all the media attention, some still think that the state of Oklahoma is trying to get the Rock Island Railroad rolling again. But as Townsend said, the Rock Island Railroad is no more. But the tracks are extremely valuable to the state.
And the line segments are some of the most direct in these United States to the major ports. And it's vital to the economic well-being of this state that we protect the east-west and the north-south corridors of the Rock Island.
Townsend is sentimental about the Rock Island. He spent 35 years with the company. Putting the sentimental aspect aside, Townsend says the line is a vital part of Oklahoma's future.
In the next 10 years, the prosperity from oil and gas will be playing out. And if this state is to have a continued prosperity, it must diversify its industrial base. In order to do that, rail systems are vital, because you can't bring medium or heavy industry to any state that doesn't have good north-south, east-west rail service.
Ben McCain, Action 4.
The Pauls Valley State School is home for nearly 600 mentally retarded Oklahomans. Some of the school's students may have adult physical development, but in most cases, their mental faculties never develop beyond infancy. Sometimes it's difficult for school employees to handle the larger students. In a new series of copyrighted reports, the Gannet News Service alleges that mentally and physically handicapped students at Pauls Valley have been whipped, kicked, gagged, and beaten. Gannet claims the abuse incidents are investigated by the school's administration, but if found guilty, employees are only lightly punished.
2 years ago, Ann Limburger worked as a ward attendant here at Pauls Valley State School. She says that during her 6-month tenure, she witnessed several instances of child abuse. In one case, she says an employee bashed a student's head against the wall. In another instance, she says that a young student was severely beaten with a leather belt. And she says in one case, a female co-worker stabbed a student in the breast with a straight pin.
We have to go by facts, not innuendos or allegations.
Norman Smith was superintendent at Pauls Valley when the incidents allegedly occurred. He said Mrs. Limburger refused to cooperate in documenting the abuse.
Here we had a person making an allegation. No supportive evidence. She didn't put it in writing, refused to give us the names. But I took it upon myself that even though we might not be able to prove it or have any evidence, at least let's protect the residents. Let's get these people, if they are in fact were guilty, let's move them out of that area to where they would be less, or they'd be dealing with youngsters that would be less vulnerable.
Ann Limburger will get another chance to detail her abuse allegations soon. Action 4 has learned that the State Bureau of Investigation wants to question her as part of its probe into abuse complaints at other state-run institutions. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Pauls Valley.
autopsy report on Tamara Carter confirms what police suspected about her death. The report says that the 17-year-old Moore girl was raped and died from a head wound caused by a blunt object, but police still don't know what type of weapon was used. Carter's body was found late Sunday afternoon in the Little River in North Norman. The brutality of her death has shocked the town of Moore, and people have been calling the police with possible leads.
A couple of leads have come up that look real promising. Detective Singer and Detective McAlester are out investigating those now, and they come from people that were in the area that seem to have saw something, things right now I can't reveal.
Right now, police can only guess what happened in the cleaner where Tamara Carter worked until Saturday night. They say they know Tamara was alive when she was abducted, but they don't know how long she was alive or how much of the ordeal she was aware of. They have leads on a suspect vehicle that may have driven Tamara from the scene, and they hope that when they find the car, it will lead them to whoever was responsible for the girl's death. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
Playing the trumpet is not an easy task, and playing it well is even harder. As John Davis has found out, it takes time, practice, and self-discipline. An 8th grader at St. John's Episcopal School, John fits in his trumpet lessons around a busy schedule. That includes basketball. But the last 5 years have paid off. John has been chosen out of numerous applicants in the country to attend the Interlochen National Music Camp this summer in Michigan. A very prestigious music opportunity. John will study with some of the finest artists in the country and experience meeting other music students from over 20 foreign countries.
I feel excited that there are going to be a lot of big people there, and hopefully I'll learn a lot and meet a lot of people with my interests and, you know, see a lot of big people.
As for John's future,
I don't know if I'll pursue music as a career, but it would be nice if I could. I don't know if I'm good enough, but it would certainly be fun, you know.
As far as his music, John isn't looking any further than this summer. He feels certain his experience at Interlochen will be invaluable in learning what real achievement is all about. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
Detectives from the Moore Police Department were busy pounding the pavement today, searching for Tammy Carter's killer. Clues at the crime scene have not led investigators to any strong suspects yet. They've now fanned out into nearby neighborhoods, talking to residents, hoping somebody saw something. 3 detectives are working on the case. They say there is a tremendous amount of pressure on them to solve the murder, just like 2 years ago when Tracy Diane Nielsen was killed in Moore. There have been reports that police believe the Nielsen and Carter murders are connected. Detectives say there are similarities in the 2 crimes, but they insist they are not related.
Everybody's at work and they're not.
Detective David Bender says more residents have been very cooperative during the investigation, but he says police would like even more leads.
10-4. No, we need all the phone calls. Anyone that sees anything or thought they saw anything should call. It may turn out to be nothing, but then it may be the most important thing in the case.
Police say the intensive investigation will continue, as well as stepped-up patrolling efforts in the city's southeast side. Mark O'Neill, Action 4.
I'm Scott Wallace. It was business as usual at the Eastmoor Shopping Center today. The dry cleaners where Tammy Carter worked reopened. The business had been shut down since Saturday evening when the teenager was abducted out the building's back door. There have been some changes made at the cleaners. The business's hours have been shortened. You won't ever see fewer than 2 workers on the job, and future deliveries will have to come through the front door. Next door at the donut shop, there have also been some changes. Doris Rogers still works alone each morning, but now her son or her boss stay nearby until her regular customers start dropping in. Doris won't open her back door now, even to take the trash out, and she's about to purchase some protection.
Really, I was never scared here before, up until this happened, and now I'm scared. And I'm just going to get me a gun and carry it with me.
A few doors down, Ken McCook says he hasn't taken any unusual security precautions at his sporting goods store, except to leave his burglar alarm wired to his back door 24 hours a day. But like most area merchants, he has a new attitude towards leaving teenagers alone at his store.
I'd say about everybody in the center has come to the same policy about leaving teenagers alone in the store. As far as sitting here saying that I won't hire teenagers again, I will, but I will not leave them by themselves.
The merchants we spoke with emphasized that this shopping center is not becoming an armed camp. But Tammy Carter's death has changed some things here. It's changed some people's perspective on what's really important in life, and perhaps it's brought some of these business people closer together. Scott Wallace, Action 4 and more.
Thousands of homes and property go up in flames. Fires started from space heaters that got too hot, overturned, or ignited materials nearby. In recent months, firefighters have repeatedly listed the cause of fire as a space heater, as in the case of this fire that took the life of a small child. Year after year, homes and lives are lost as a result of the heaters, and each year changes and improvements on the heaters are made. But is this cheap means of heat too costly in the long run? These firemen think so.
Well, the main thing would be that if they have to use it, is not to use it on a high flame. Use it as low as you possibly can, because when you do this, you use less oxygen, and also there's less chance of, you're getting into the flame.
I think basically, like you say, open flame heaters should be controlled. It should be watched, and it should be kept free of anything that is liable to burn, such as curtains, socks. People just need to pay more attention to the cleanliness around the heater.
My suggestion would be to buy one that actually is a box type, where you actually have metal between you and the flame. Like I had said earlier, there are so many designs, but as long as they have a box type where they cannot get to the flame, then you would have a better safety factor.
And finally, firemen suggest that if you do use a space heater, to use one with some kind of protective grill to make sure the space heater warms your home and doesn't destroy it. Debbie Mash, Action 4. The complaints of itching began yesterday. 2 students checked out of Harding Middle School yesterday after complaining that their skin itched. Today it was a snowball effect. Hundreds of students complained of itching. They flocked to the school clinic in droves, scratching and complaining that something was irritating their skin. Many of the students were checked by the school nurse and then allowed to go home. A few students were taken to Children's Memorial Hospital, where they were examined, and where doctors tried to determine the culprit of this itching outbreak.
We're not sure what it is. It may be a gag or a joke or itching powder, and we've asked the youngsters to shower and have the parents wash their clothes and give us any follow-up that may come about, but they all seem to be in good shape otherwise.
Many of the students tell a similar tale, that they began scratching after seeing their fellow classmates do the same.
I thought it was kind of funny because the other kids had it, and I was kind of laughing at them, and then I went over and helped them scratch. So then I got it, then it kind of spread it around the whole room.
Health department officials took water samples, checked the water cooling system, bathrooms, and other areas of the school building in search of the unknown irritant. Their only clue was possible problems with the newly installed water cooling system, so most of the water was turned off. But the real culprit, according to many of the students, was itching powder. School officials disagree.
We've not been able to verify that at all. In fact, we've not had any names, we've not seen any powder, and we've not seen any students. So we've not been able to verify that, but we will check everything that we can.
School and health department officials theorize that the newly installed water cooler system could have contributed to this problem, but they also acknowledge that the problem may be psychological. That is, students scratching after seeing other students do the same. But whether or not the problem is psychological or there is some irritant, it's up to the health department to decide for sure. Debbie Mash, Action 4.